You're on.
All right, the time is now 7:03. I'm going to call to order the January 24th, 2018 meeting of the Tilton Budget Committee. First order of business are the meeting minutes from last week. Everybody had a chance to review them?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Any corrections?
I make a motion to accept the Tilton Budget Committee meeting minutes for January 10th, 2018.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Okay, all set. Question, is anybody parked out on the side here?
Me.
Okay,
Excuse me.
all right,
Sorry.
because,
I'm all the way in the parking lot.
well, I was gonna go to the parking lot, and then I took that handicap space, and Tim had to carry me the rest of the way.
Pretty much.
I don't know who's out
We're
front.
here for ice.
Oh,
Terrible.
I had to walk down the street today. Couldn't walk on the sidewalk. You find that too? It was really bad, really.
I was talking to
And
parents,
they've been sanding too.
yeah, and I was talking to parents who were very upset they had school the other day, where they were walking kids in the middle of the road through the ice because they couldn't do it. And she said, there was one I was talking to as an 8-year-old, slipped and fell and slid across the road. And so I suggested that they go to the school board meeting.
It's not the school board, it's the town of Tilton. I know that Pat has gotten calls today, and when I went out, took the dog out, and the people on Chestnut Street were over, they have 2 kids that go to school, and they couldn't get to the bus. I haven't been able to get to the bus, so they had to walk in the street, and they were out sanding the sidewalk. Now, that's a sad state of affairs, when people have to get out and sand the sidewalks across the street from their house so their kids can get on the bus. So, I know that Pat was going to address it. I don't know whether she did or she didn't. I just know she said she got called.
Yeah, there was
Because
also,
I told her, and she said she got
also a
called.
question of whether they should have had school at all.
Well, you should have been in our budget committee meeting the other night. I thought that they weren't going to have school when we left. Didn't you think it was going to? And
So do we have Timothy tonight?
we have Tim tonight, so the first order of business before we get into the budget is to turn it over to Tim, because I believe he has some changes.
Okay, yep.
Budget's been revised on the Public Works Department from last week.
Yes, yeah, it's not really revised, just properly updated.
Realigned.
Realigned, that's
I thought
right.
the expenditure was wonderful.
Well, I thought it was odd,
Some
but
are
I
good, some are
didn't,
good, some are real
and I
bad.
didn't tell a single person. I didn't say a single word about it.
You will see, though, that if you look at Public Works, I mean, the salt and sand budget is just, we had a lot of expenses. There may be some adjustments I'll make based on the usage that we had in 17 versus 18, because we got some expenses right at the end of 17. And I have to make a determination as to what we're going to allocate to 17 versus 18. But the entire amount right now is in 17 for that salt and sand. And if you look on page 6, you'll see about halfway down, maybe about 12 or 13 lines down, you'll see in 2017 we budgeted 34,000 and we spent 51,800.
Yep.
So, but like I said, those very last invoices, I have to work with the Public Works Director to determine what we're going to allocate to 18, because there will be some money that's going to come out of that and be reallocated. The other thing I would bring your attention to is on the very back page, our revenues. These revenues, the unaudited revenues have been updated. So we came in about $118,000 stronger than what we had forecast, which was good news. And then the one change to the budget, which is in the information technology budget.
Figures.
Well, this is I've been trying to get to the Board of Selectmen for several weeks now, and I'd hoped to incorporate this in the original budget, but I was waiting to get their approval to add to the IT budget. So earlier this year, we had applied for grants through the Emergency Management Performance Grant for the police department. And I had put in a generator, a new console radio, which the one that we had was, 18 years old. And as you heard when we were at the PD. And we also had a replacement for our surveillance system at the PD as well, and which was sorely needed because there were cameras that were working intermittently. There were numerous problems. Most of it was about 8 to 9 years old, and some of it, about a quarter of it, was somewhere, we think, in the 11 to 12 years old range. And it was showing its age. We've had to replace the main DVR several times. I think 3 times we've replaced it. And what makes it challenging is because some of our cameras are audio and visual in certain areas of the police department, the DVRs don't all support that. And it has to be the same manufacturer because it's a proprietary system. So we've had numerous issues with this over time. And we thought this was a wonderful way to have the grant pay for this. We had matching money that had already been expended on other projects at the police department, and based on the advisor, our advisor for the Emergency Management Performance Grant, or EMPG grant, she had thought that all our match monies would apply to the entire grant. Well, as it turned out, the one thing that they didn't approve the match monies for was for the surveillance system. And long story short, I ended up removing that portion from the grant, modifying the grant so that we could get it approved, which we did, and we received approval on January 2nd of this year for the generator and the console. So those will be 100% paid for. The surveillance system, in discussing this with the program coordinator for EMPG, the bottom line was that that FEMA wouldn't allow the match money that we had, but if we had spent money for surveillance in the past within a certain period of time, that we could use that as match money for this project. So essentially what I did was I went back to our vendor, which is Mango Security, who we've used for years as the primary system at Riverfront Park. Does a phenomenal job with not only the systems, but their support and warranty, and just I could go through many things, but my plan is, and as I told the selectmen, is to use them as sole source for our town surveillance systems. We use them now for our fire monitoring, and I want to use them for the surveillance because as we are expanding, we really need to put in better systems than what we've had. And we've had pretty much consumer-based systems in the past that really show their age and sophistication very early on. And even though they're inexpensive up front, they just don't really last and do the job that we need. So, in any event, long story short, I went back to the selectmen. I got quotes from Mango for the PD for the entire project that we want to do, which is expanding the number of cameras we have there now to incorporate more perimeter cameras and a camera that would capture activity at Salmon Run across the street, so that parking lot would be surveilled as well. And then we took half of that and put it into this budget. So, and it covers the most critical aspects of the network video recorder. So this is all an IP-based system, or Internet Protocol-based system, so it's network-based. So it handles the main controller, as well as 5 audio-visual cameras, which are in the most critical areas for liability, which is the booking area. So you have sound and video recorded there. In the cell, the jail cell, in the interview room, in the lobby, and in the evidence room. And those are the most critical, highest liability areas, and those are the ones that have to have audio as well. So the proposal that we're putting in, that the selectmen agreed to put into the 2018 budget, is $9,979. I think that's what it is. Yeah, $99.79.
Is
And
that hardware?
yes,
Okay,
yep, and I put a note in there.
I see that, yeah.
So, so that represents half of the entire system once it's all complete. It's a little bit more than half, but that's because it's a little more front-end loaded. But and then once we've done this project and spent the money, I can go back to the EMPG people and apply for funds to, you know, to build out the rest of the system. If for some reason we don't qualify at that point in time, or FEMA has changed their guidelines again, which is entirely possible, but what I was told was that as of today, if we had had this already and we were applying, that yeah, it would meet the qualifications and we'd be fine. So my plan would be in 2018 to do this project, turn around and apply for the grant and use this as matching money. And then hopefully that would be approved and we would build out the rest of it with that grant money. If for some reason it's not approved, then I would put the balance of what we need to do into 2019 and possibly 2020 to spread it out. But as far as most people that are familiar with the grant are concerned, it shouldn't be an issue. But nothing is guaranteed, you know. It's just the nature of the grants.
And I think any cameras that we put in anywhere have served us well. So I think we've made sound decisions on those.
They have.
Money well spent.
They have, and they've been very good about, you know, when we've had, I mean, there have been some cameras that we had thought we'd, you know, they had quoted us and we thought would be fine in a particular area, but once the camera went in, the field of vision, because you can have different, I mean, there's all kinds of configurations you can do with these, but the field of vision was either too narrow or too wide, and they were very good about it. You know, so we're looking at it saying, you know, we really should have a 6mm camera there, not a 4mm, and they just swap it out. You know, so they're really after what's, you know, what is the best interest of their customers, and I mean, they've really come through a number of times when we've really been in a spot. So, so anyway, so that is the one change to the budget in information technology.
Jim, question.
Mm-hmm.
The cameras and everything else, would that be installed by an outside contractor?
It would be installed by Mango, yes.
That'd be Mango, and then but we would own
Yes,
the equipment, but they would do the maintenance and warranty.
that's correct, yep.
Okay, like you do at the park.
Same as at the park, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep,
And that's where I think it's paid off for us. The ones that do.
Oh, I'm
And
not
we-
disagreeing, I just want to know,
Yeah, I know.
if we're going to have a contractor doing this work,
Yeah.
right.
okay, and you guys do the RFPs and all the other good stuff, that still is our equipment.
Yes,
It is still owned by the town,
that's correct.
and we are ultimately responsible
Yes,
for the equipment.
yes. And there aren't large ongoing costs to this equipment either. I mean, it's really the upfront cost is what it is. There isn't a monitoring fee.
My only
If we make
thought-
changes, we would pay for those changes.
My only thought is if we're going to do this, it should be something, a town project, the town. It's not contracted services
Oh,
to somebody
right.
else.
Right. There's some other advantages here too with this, is that today in the PD, it's really not, the current system, because of some limitations, isn't accessible to a number of people within the PD. So this would allow not only dispatch to have a screen up with all the cameras on it, it would also allow other people to do the same. So if they're downstairs, they could have you know, a monitor also showing all the cameras so they could see people coming and going. You know, so from a safety standpoint, you know, I think it really makes a lot of sense too.
What's the data storage for the cameras?
These are, there are 4 terabyte drives and in a RAID configuration. So I believe we have, I'm trying to remember the quantity. We have four terabyte drives, which will give us a lot of storage. The only thing is that these are very high definition cameras, so they take up a lot of storage too.
Right.
So, but these are enterprise type drives, Western Digital Purple drives, which
and as part of the liability, certainly it will be going to, some things will go to court. Is this system accessible in a fairly easy way to download
Yeah.
material, just the material?
Glad you brought that up, because there are two people at the PD who are primarily responsible for pulling this sort of data for discovery and for defense attorneys and things like that. And right now, it is such a kludgy system, for lack of a better term, that the data that they have to pull is so large, and then they have to try to trim stuff to be able to fit it on, even on a DVD. But it comes in excess of a gigabyte per section, and there just isn't any way to change it. We really struggled with that particular thing. This other system, it's all Hikvision is the manufacturer, and I pull stuff from the Riverfront Park all the time for things, and you can just snip here, snip there, and just put it on a flash drive, save it as a thing, email it to someone. The other thing that's really nice about these cameras too is that because of the high definition, you can zoom in to a given area, you know, and because of the resolution, you still are able to see quite a bit, you know, with a still or something like that.
With training, will we be able to train other officers in the use of this
It's
system?
very simple, yeah.
And because you're saying it's two, if we lose one,
Well, there are two people that are primarily do that, and then usually they call me if there's something.
but if they have people that they can be trained at the PD to pull out the snips, it would seem to be a better
Yeah,
process.
it's usually either the captain or the sergeant that would be responsible for that, and there's reasons why they, you know,
Oh, yeah.
they have the rank for that particular thing, because they have to maintain custody of it and make sure that nobody messes with it.
Tim, I had a question on the land use,
Oh, okay.
the salaries. Is that because of the technician?
The full-time, the
Full
full
time.
year, right.
Okay.
So last year, we had budgeted the technician from, I believe it was May through December, and so this year it's the full year.
And well,
Even if
I
it's
saw the
June through
note
December.
there, but I just wanted to make sure that was the reason.
That's correct, yep.
Does anybody else have any questions to ask him while he's here?
Just great job with the grants. Last year, I'm looking at, we budgeted that we would get $2,000 in grants last year for the PD, and we actually received $11,981.
Well, and that
So-
doesn't even include, because we maintain a grants and donations fund. So the other emergency management performance grant that we got that paid for our highway sign, you know, our message board, and also the one of the MDTs for the cruisers, that was another $23,000 that was paid for out of this fund, and the grant reimbursed the fund. So when we have a wholly, you know, an entire in and out of something like that, it usually goes through that grants fund. But yeah, these, no, we've done well. I think in total,
Just stay right on it.
we probably, yeah, and we're always looking for, you know, ways of getting grant money. And in particular, this emergency management performance grant is good because, this is a little unusual this time, but usually you can use money that you've already spent for something. It just has to be in the right category and apply to it. We just unfortunately didn't have anything that would match, you know, we thought we did, and we were told we did originally, but
Yeah.
but in the end, and they even went, the state even went to their FEMA rep and made the case for it, but it just wasn't close enough, so.
Jane, one last question. I'm kind of a bottom line person.
Yes.
Budget up, down, and by what?
Well, so on your first page, if you look at the first page and you go all the way down past the suggested warrant articles, you'll see a total appropriation of $5,733,101, which represents a $29,110 decrease, or 0.5% decrease. Now, keep in mind, though, that we paid off Business Park Drive debt this last year, so really the debt that we paid off was absorbed by other things, in this budget, with the exception of 0.5%.
And
For
I
30,000.
appreciate that. The reason I ask is people that are watching don't have the luxury of looking
Correct.
at this, so that's good. So we met the goal, the selectmen met the goal of level funding or below. Good job, John.
They did.
Okay. Thank you, Tim, very much.
I'll be happy to stick around if you have any other questions on the budget or as you vote. You'll notice on the far right-hand side, in bold, you'll see at least what I've determined that you've already approved and voted on. So there's quite a few sections of the budget that you have yet to vote on.
Correct.
It appears, if I'm up to date, which I think I am.
I think we voted on the police and we voted on the outside agencies, and that's it, correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
So we have a lot of
Hang
work
out here
for
if you have
tonight.
any questions for me.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving right along, I think one of the things we need to look at, next week we have our public hearing, our first public hearing. Our second, because Johanna requested it, we have the second one on Valentine's Day. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, because she thinks we're such sweethearts.
So is that still 7 o'clock? We need to be here
What?
on the public meetings?
Mhm. We'll have, it's our regular meeting, we're always here for the public hearing. Okay, so the first area that we need to talk about is the town hall, and that's on page 3. Has everybody had an opportunity to look through it? Any comments or questions?
We starting with administration, or?
Yeah,
Okay, so it'll be page 2, right?
oh, I'm sorry, page,
Top page.
yeah, page 2,
Administration, yes.
sorry. Administration,
Get the final numbers on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any comment? Question?
All right, administration. Well, they're under budget, so.
That's
good
good.
with that.
I think the only issue I don't think we've really ever had any questions on that.
Yeah.
All right, so the total for that is,
655,344.
yeah. I'll make a motion to accept that for $655,344 for total administration.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is town clerk tax collector. Any comments?
What's the based on elections? Why is that so much higher?
Because we have 3 elections in 2018 versus the 1 election we had last year.
Oh, okay.
I think we offer, and I'm becoming more and more aware of how many services we do offer, our town clerk tax collector offers, in terms of making it easy. I know I've already gotten my notices from my dogs.
Yep,
And,
absolutely.
so, I think she keeps ahead of things quite efficiently and effectively.
One of the things that always comes up, and so I'm going to put it out there on the table just for some discussion on, is the town clerk tax collector raise. She's asking for 3% this year.
Mm-hmm.
And
Isn't the town standard like 2%?
Merit raise is 2.5.
It's an elected position, so, it's a little touchy on it, but it's one of those things that always will come up. And in the past, that she's gotten different raises. So she picks what she wants for a raise. We don't give it to her.
Right.
Yes, we've
She
been.
picks what she
yeah.
wants. And this is what she chose to get for a raise this year, and so if we agree with it,
Yeah. The town actually sets her salary.
Everybody else got 2.5, though she's asking for 3.
Well, that's merit. She's not, she doesn't report to the town, actually she reports to the state, is that correct?
well, she
And
serves,
so
And the
she-
townspeople.
No,
serves the voters, or
correct, correct.
the residents.
But she doesn't get a merit raise from the selectmen the way other people did.
Jane, I make a motion that we accept the $126,151.
28.
128.
128, I've got my glasses on me. 128, 151.
150.
150.
No, 151.
They're on it.
Say it, 151.
Where's 151?
Who did that? Tim?
It's not 151.
Yes, it is.
I got 150.
Department request and the selectmen budget is different, but
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
It's just a rounding, it's just a rounding thing.
I second that.
That doesn't happen, Tim.
which one are you seconding, the 151? or-
Yeah.
It should be the 150.
Oh, it should? Okay. All right, the 150.
Well, do you want to say your motion again?
Okay. Yeah. I make a motion that we accept what is written in this selectmen budget of 150,
128, 150.
128, 150.
I can clarify this a little bit for you, just so you understand not to interrupt your motion, but the department request comes from other areas. It has a lot of decimal places that round sometimes up or down a dollar. And the selectmen's budget, which they approved, is a finite number. There are no decimal places to that.
Okay, so 128, 150.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. Just to keep it straight for all of us, if we just look at the very last column,
Right.
even if we don't have our glasses. Okay, so the next is the finance, and I think we should go with that with a very fine-tooth comb.
Theirs is less than last year, so.
Well, because of the debt.
Yes.
That's because of the debt. But I can tell you, we overspent in the tax anticipation note. Our borrowing, the timing of the borrowing this year didn't favor us, unfortunately. And sometimes it's better, and we utilize a line of credit, so I take it down as far as, I go down in terms of cash as low as we can go, but we just, it just didn't work in our favor this year, and the rate is somewhat increased for 2018, so I did budget more for both the rate and an additional, a little bit higher line of credit.
And I'm assuming no one wants to talk about the increase in the budget committee.
Where's that?
How have we been doing with getting other agencies to, like the Times and stuff, and asking for a small amount or a big amount up front to wait till after our taxes come in?
Yeah, no, pretty good. I've worked very closely with the really big ones, like the school and fire, because those really affect our borrowing in a big way. Most of the other agencies like that are quarterly. There's a few that Joyce and I discussed and talked to the owners, and there's a few that we pay up front, but mostly they're quarterly. The more moderate sized ones that we fund during the year, the outside agencies, most of them are quarterly, and some are back end loaded at the end of the year.
That helps out. That can help out a lot if the
Yeah,
school,
and I'm
maybe a couple
always-
of weeks can.
I'm always trying to move payments, if we have large payments, move them into tax time when we're collecting a lot of taxes. So that's always my goal. And whenever we're looking at a contract, where there's any sizable purchase or anything like that, I'm always trying to make it either June or
Payable.
December,
So our payables line up with that.
Alrighty, any other comments or questions on finance?
No.
We're not expecting any more potential loans or anything since we paid one off, or?
Well, the only ones that we would have would be, we have the authorization to borrow for Caleb Hill Road, which that authorization was done a few years ago, and they're only good for 5 years, the bond authorizations. So we haven't initiated any borrowing, and we won't until there's more progress. But
When does that bond expire?
I think it was 14 or 15 that we took it out, so it'd either be 19 or 20. The only other, I don't think there's any other borrowing on being talked about other than once the Police Building Study Committee completes their work. I don't think there'd be any borrowing in this next year, but maybe in 2019 possibly. And that's outside of, incidental things like leasing a cruiser or something like that, which we've done each year, but it's paid for out of our police detail fund.
I make a motion that we accept the selectmen budget number for the finance department. Timothy, if I get this wrong, correct me. $318,651.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next is information technology, and
Zero.
I think that Tim explained the difference there for the surveillance cameras. So I'll make a motion to fund the information technology budget in the amount of $103,305.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Next is land use. I only had one question on that, and that was the salary items, and I think that was explained.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. Tim, are the legal fees absorbed through the town legal fees from,
They are,
Okay.
yeah, it's in the administration budget. Yes.
okay.
I make a motion that we fund land use at $125,817.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next is health and welfare. What caused the administrative expenses to be,
To be lower,
yeah,
that was the request of the welfare director.
do you know why?
I don't, other than if you look at the 2017 expense
Mhm.
of a $1,500 budget, she spent $74, so I think she's anticipating not having
Not having more?
not having many expenses.
Okay.
I think we had assistants. Was that last year? We had a welfare assistant too. And I think Gail's been doing a lot of helping out too. Was
Yeah, but I didn't, I thought we had the assistant only when,
that the previous year?
It was,
previous year, I think,
it
that was
was-
from Sanford.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
it
that was the
the
previous year.
It was 16, yeah.
I'll make a motion to fund the health and welfare budget for $94,580.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, and we met with Public Works last week, and I think we could have made a motion to accept it last week, and we went out and started looking and didn't get around, we finished it, we just didn't get around to it, so,
I guess the only concern I have is going to be around salt and sand budget
yeah.
and how much that could fluctuate from this budget at this point in time. And is there enough money currently in this budget to cover that?
Well, may I, since I'm here? So not just salt and sand, but also the overtime. You'll see that both those lines, which are storm generated, are pretty high. We budgeted $31,000 in overtime. We came in at $52,300, and then, as I mentioned earlier about the salt and sand, the difference now is the town has hired a person for that open position. They haven't started yet, but they will be starting very soon. So that should help with overtime, I would think. And then salt and sand, as I said, we'll have to look at some adjustments there. It's not going to be a huge amount adjusted, But when we had talked with the Board of Selectmen about this, the determination was, do you budget for the worst of the worst, the 20-year scenario, or do you budget for what's most likely, and then maybe make an adjustment at town meeting? Because at town meeting, either the Board of Selectmen or someone from anyone really can make a motion to amend the budget, and particularly if we've seen a continuation of this winter go through town meeting and eat up a lot of money, so that we can protect ourselves at the end of the year. So we could amend it at that point. But it is, and this is one of those things, in October, November, you really don't know. And as our Public Works Director would tell you, it takes just as much money to plow 3 or 4 inches of snow as it does a foot or 2 of snow.
And ice.
And the ice is
I think that's what's
That's this
really
year,
killed
isn't
us.
it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in the beginning of last year, we had those storms too.
Yeah, typically, we don't normally get in the same year a fall and a winter whammy.
Yeah.
Usually, like this year, we got hit early, so it dipped into what we spent for
Yeah.
2017, which also took out our supplies that we'd be using for 2018, so
Right.
Mr. Chairperson,
it's
Well, we
a,
have an
Mr.
average.
Chairperson, Mr. Chairperson, I move that we fund Public Works at $1,219,000.
No.
671,000. Go up
Where am I?
higher.
You're doing total public works and
Oh, okay.
sanitation. It's, we'll do them
I'm,
separately.
okay,
I understand what you did, Wayne.
so we fund them at $71,233.
671,000.
633.
Absolutely, 671,233, and I will bring my glasses next time.
And I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now, sanitation.
Now, is the contract still for Pinard Waste for the coming year?
Yes,
too?
yep, it's a 5-year contract,
A
and
5-year.
this will be the second of the 5 years.
Good.
There, in that first line, recycling line, when we purchased the recycling, or the solid waste carts, that's where that came out of, so that's why there was a reduction into 2018.
I make a motion that we fund sanitation at $48,216.
548.
I'm getting really worried.
548.
548, I'm driving.
this one stuff.
Already big on here.
I don't know where I get this.
Timothy, you gotta make these bigger.
I can make it bigger.
Make them big, I mean, I'm old, Timothy.
Did you vote on it?
No, not
No.
yet. Did you get it out?
500,
Okay, I second that. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? This might add, I think that Bernard's doing a great job.
Yes.
Nah, not too many nasty grams or anything like that.
I just amazes me. I think, I love watching it. I never liked watching the men have to get out in the cold weather, and it's just amazing to watch that. A very efficient system.
One of the great things that they've been doing is they field all of the phone calls and all the complaints, and they get right over there. So if, before Joyce or Gail would have to step in and try and figure things out, make calls and that, these guys are real responsive. Somebody calls up,
Nice.
they're right there.
And I know there have been times they, like when they first started, they missed, and they don't make excuses. They say, sorry, I absolutely forgot about it, I don't know what I was thinking, and they come back and they get it.
Yeah, either that day or the next day.
Yep.
They're good about that.
And I appreciated the fact that during the storm, we got an alert saying they were going to stop because it was so bad, and they would be back the next morning. That was a good move too, I thought. So I think it was well worth, I'm glad we went with them.
And you'll be glad to know, Timothy, it was not the town's issue with my email.
I didn't think it was.
Okay? Franklin Pierce, through their ingenious IT department, put the firewall up
Yep.
and refused to accept any alerts.
Yeah.
So we had a discussion with their a sophomore down there.
Okay.
That was the last one.
Well, you've approved the
Yeah.
PD, but in culture and recreation, I think there was still some open items in there.
Yeah, park commission
Budget
expenses.
committee approved.
Right, but the park commission, the green committee, and Memorial Day.
I make a motion that we fund the park commission at $38,856. How's that, Timothy? Better?
Yes, I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I make a motion that we fund culture Memorial Day at $100.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And a green committee?
I think that takes care of them.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fund Green Committee at $1.
Second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, and the parks and the lakes region planning, those are contracts, and that's why we didn't see them, but I guess we have to accept them. So I'll make a motion
Which
to
ones?
Park Cemetery and Lakes region planning.
Okay.
Make a motion to fund Park Cemetery at $6,000.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Make a motion to fund Lakes Region Planning at $3,540.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I think the only other thing is that, let's see, animal control again is a
Got a contract.
contract also. Somebody want to make a motion on that one?
Make a motion to accept health animal control at $5,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Do we want to keep that $1 line?
I would say so.
I make a motion that we fund alternate recreation at $1.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairwoman, do we have to vote on the zeros?
Well, it's crossed out.
That's crossed out.
In other words, there was,
It doesn't
there was
exist.
no request made.
It doesn't
It's
exist,
shown
no.
there for
Okay.
historical purposes.
That may be one that will be resurrected hopefully sometime in the future.
Could we amend the estimated revenue to $3 million? Get working, Tim. We need more grants.
All right.
Your
So those-
estimated revenue.
Those increases are going to adjust our -5% total appropriation.
Can I ask, did they vote on the sewer budget?
I don't think there was an official vote, I think they kind of accepted it.
The 508,573?
Oh, okay, and the other one is
Where's that?
Lockmeyer too, and we can't do that because they're coming in.
Well, on the very first page is
Oh.
sewer pass-through.
Yeah,
So whatever amount is approved in the expenditures is the same amount that's put into the revenues. In other words, it's a complete pass-through for taxpayers, there's no impact at all, but you still have to approve the amount. But it sounds like maybe they did, or
I don't know that there was an official vote.
I don't think
taken.
we took an official vote.
I would recommend it.
I'll make a motion to accept the sewer pass-through for $508,533.
Second.
All in favor?
I had a question,
Yeah.
discussion on that. Why do we call it the sewer pass-through now as opposed to the sewer?
Well, that's really,
Because we could not approve it. So, and we should be clear that we could say that we don't agree with that, but, I mean, it would be major disruptive,
that
but
was just
I just
my,
didn't think it would be appropriate to call it a pass-through,
Yeah.
because we do have input on it.
what would you prefer, just sewer commission?
Just sewer commission, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's just what I put on
Just-
there, just to indicate that it doesn't impact the tax there isn't a tax impact to it, but I'll change that.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for you, Johanna, and it's, when they do when they go to West Main, when they do that project,
Yes.
what's the bond situation on that?
Right now, we're only doing preliminary engineering, which is not eligible for grants or loans. So Sewer Commission is going to pay that up front.
Okay,
Next year, depending on the outcome of the preliminary engineering, we're going to bring the project to town meeting.
okay,
When it goes to town meeting will vote. We're hoping to fund the project through USRDA loan. It's not eligible for USRDA grant because of where it falls in the town. And we're also looking to get state aid grant and SR, state revolving loan. So it'll be brought to town meeting. Those would be our funding sources. That amount of the bond would be spread over the entire town and not just the sewer users.
okay. I just was curious because it didn't come up when we were talking about the project, and it occurred to me later that we didn't talk. I was curious. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Timothy, on the front page, there are two questions I have. One is the sewer pass-through, 508,533. Do we need to add that into the budget at this point in time?
I think, did they vote?
No.
Okay.
That's what you're doing right now.
Okay.
Yep.
The second is there are 4 suggested warrant articles at this point in time,
There may be more,
but at this time.
At this time, yeah.
So one is for 35,000 for capital reserve highway equipment, 74,000 capital reserve roads, street bridges and sidewalks, 20,000 for capital reserve reevaluation, which is the normal. What year are we in with that anyway?
Let's see. We're in
We have a
the-
motion on the table for
I'm
sewer.
sorry.
For sewer. Okay, so.
I thought we'd taken that too.
No, we didn't.
I interrupted it.
You did.
Oh, thanks,
All right.
John.
That was me.
I'll make a motion for sewer budget, the amount of, I think I did this already, but 508,533. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Okay.
now,
Now, my last question is also 2,000 capital reserve for the milfoil. Is there any others pending at this point in time?
There are some others that the selectmen are still looking at, or Joyce, I'm not sure if Joyce has presented them to the selectmen yet, but there are a couple others.
Okay.
I'm not sure they're going to be moneyed or capital reserve type warrant articles, but there could be. But as far as I know, no.
Okay. If they are, can we get those before the public hearing next week?
Well, we're going to have 2 hearings.
we're gonna hear, yeah.
So the second hearing will be on the warrant articles.
Wait, I'm just saying, if they're done,
Oh,
can they send us
as
the
soon as
warrant articles
possible.
so we
I'm
can
sure
take a
they
look
will
at
once
them?
they're
Yeah.
done. Yeah,
No, maybe that's all.
I doubt they'd be
Yeah.
ready after tomorrow's meeting.
I think a couple of them.
Well, I just asked Joyce and they're not ready, that's why we don't have them.
Right, and I don't have a problem tonight, but if we could have them as soon as possible,
Yeah.
so we could take a look at them and balance the budget with that.
To answer your question on the revaluation, I believe we're in the fourth year, so 2019 would be a reval year. I think we did the last one in 14.
Really?
9, 14, and then 19.
Thank you, good memory.
Goes by quick.
That's too quick.
So next year it'll be more or less for the 5th year.
Yes, we will budget a little bit more
Right,
for
'cause-
that final year,
Yeah.
because there are other expenses associated with the reval, yes.
All right, I think. Let me just check. I think there was only one thing that we were different, wasn't there a recreation?
The blind,
Yeah,
Oh,
and
so we need to add, what, $500? Was it $500?
What are you talking about?
The total operating budget. Under cultural and recreation,
Or
We added $1, we added $38,856, and we added $100 just on culture. Outside agency, we
Oh,
added
that we had to add.
$5,500.
park and maintenance for the island.
we,
Was different.
all right, can you check that, make sure we have the right number and
For which?
for everything before we do the total, and we can do that next week.
Oh, okay, to vote on the bottom.
Vote on the total budget. Just double check for us.
The ones that you've already approved? Yeah.
No, double check where
Add.
we're different from the selectmen's budget.
Oh, yes, yeah,
Okay.
I think there's just those two.
Just those two, I think, but before we,
Yes, okay.
okay, and then we can do that next
Presentation
week.
of the blind.
Is that all right? Satisfactory with
Park
everybody?
maintenance, the island park maintenance for some reason.
Yeah.
Is,
Island Park. no?
how did I miss that? I've not been here, but is there a reason why we went to 2,000 over 1,500?
Because they had a 36% increase over last year for with elderly issues.
Now, that's,
You talking about maintenance?
No, that's the association first site.
oh, I'm talking about the
Oh, I'm sorry.
island. They
Oh.
requested 1,500, or is, why did we
What
increase?
line is?
Okay, yeah,
I'm-
let's go back.
Culture and recreation, it's on page 8, right?
Line
Third line
945.
Okay, I see it, I
Yeah,
see
they
it.
requested 1,500.
Yeah.
Does anybody recall?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember. Do you remember, Joanna?
I don't.
I think maybe we could find out and at the next meeting,
Yeah, and,
if amend it. I would suggest if there's no specific reason,
well, it might
At
be
the
in the
next meeting.
minutes.
then we take it back to
Yeah.
1,500. I don't want to do that if there was a specific reason.
Well, that's why I say we'll check
Yeah.
check the minutes, okay?
Sounds reasonable.
All right. Anything else? I only have two things to bring up. One, our friend Stephen is in the hospital, so keep him in your prayers and thoughts. And if you hear anything, would you please let us know?
Yeah, he was talking to me today. He said
Okay.
he's still,
He's there for an assessment, because they don't know right now what's wrong with me. It's in Brigham and Women's. And the other thing is that, Wayne, you need to sign up for Budget Committee. And also,
Need a pen?
Arthur needs to sign up.
But there's no papers in there.
Oh, that's
I'll be in
So,
tomorrow.
Okay. And
I love coming down here to raise havoc.
I'll call Arthur, but you also, and if you can, remind him to stay on his case.
he's always here, so.
And to the general public, anybody else?
Yeah, anybody else who's interested, we have an opening.
I think
And
it's
you need to sign up with the town clerk tax collector during the hours of 8:15, 8:30 to 4:30?
4:15.
4:15, okay. Except on Thursdays, 5:30.
do we post the openings at town meeting, like that big board there to show that there's still openings, or no? I think we should.
We bring it up. All right, is there any other business?
It's such a well-paying job.
May I ask, is there anything that you would like from me in preparation for the public hearing next week?
I want to see our bottom line again once this is all done.
Right.
Well, he's gonna
I'll
get that
have-
for
I'll
us.
have this for you, but if there was anything else that you wanted.
Coffee, donuts, whips.
We will check on that. I'll check the minutes for that meeting to see why that's
Get a smile out of him anyways.
Johanna, you have anything for us?
I have a feeling that what we did is we approved it before it came in on a previous years or something, and then they sent in a different request.
I don't remember, so I don't know. if
I
it's
don't
here.
remember it either.
To check.
I don't have a clue.
Do we have any other business,
No?
ma'am? I make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Is anything going to take out the rest of your driveway?
So if it starts at 7, should we be here before 7? Early enough? And the public hearing?